Good evening. This is the 14First Alert Weather Show, Sunday night, June the 28th. Time to talk about the heat and the weather coming up and answer your questions too. I'll be looking at your comments on the 14 News Facebook page. You can comment in on YouTube, but unfortunately I can't get over there and look at that one at the same time as Facebook, so we'll kind of lean it that way. Well, you know it's going to be hot. Today we already kicked off our heat wave with a high temperature, I think, of around 92. We'll get to that in a minute. But we do have first alert weather days for the entire week, and there is an extreme heat warning, a rare one. Those are not issued very often, certainly not a warning from the National Weather Service from now until Thursday, but it will likely be extended. I don't see a big change in the conditions going forward. And basically what a extreme heat warning means is that heat index is expected to climb above 105 for a prolonged period, in our case several days in a row. We are in the frying pan here. Of course, we have the extreme heat warning here in the tri-state over to St. Louis and Paducah, northeastern Indiana up around Fort Wayne, Angola, all the way up to Detroit, and then the Great Plains from Minneapolis all the way down to Kansas City will experience extreme heat this week. And there really is not much you can do other than try to avoid the heat. If you must be out in it, drink a lot of water, take breaks, get in the air conditioning if you can, but try to avoid it if you can. That heat index will be in the danger zone, and we're going to talk about the symptoms of heat exhaustion and heat stroke here in a couple of minutes. Our daily highs anyway are going to be hot. Look at that, 94 tomorrow, 96s there on Tuesday and Wednesday, and we stay in the middle 90s. Even the 4th of July here, Saturday, still up to 93 degrees. Rain chances are going to be extremely limited this week. What happens in a heat wave is that we have high pressure that builds in, and it basically creates what we call a heat dome. And as that heat expands and covers more of the map, the storms will tend to ride around the dome. And so because of that, there really isn't anything to break it down until that high pressure moves on or we have some sort of big change. And the tips here I've given many times, like taking frequent breaks and staying hydrated. Right now, for example, here we are at 9 o'clock and we have a feels like temperature out there of 89 degrees. This is at the station. 92 the feels like at Oakland City and Mount Carmel. One of the reasons it feels so hot is we have a lot of moisture in the air too. Now, as you know, we've gotten done with 4 really rainy days. It started Thursday. We had 1 inch and 3/10. Then on Friday, we picked up 1 inch and 72 hundredths. Yesterday, we had a record all-time daily rainfall of 3.06. And again, this is measured at Evansville Regional Airport. You probably had a lot more at your house, depending on where you live, especially Western Kentucky. And then overnight, after midnight, but before the sun came up this morning, we picked up another 1 3/4 at Evansville Regional. So if you add those up, it comes up to about 7.82. That's the most rain we've had in any four-day period in 30 years, going all the way back to 1996. No rain, of course, to be had here on the radar. We're not expecting any. And we're currently at 82 degrees, but look at that dew point at 75, and the humidity's at 79%. Anything on the dew point over 70 is considered to be oppressive, and we are well beyond that, and we'll be there all week. Our temperatures around the area are in the low to mid 80s, but again, with that humidity tacked on, really makes a difference. Our high temp today got up to 91. It was 93 in Bowling Green and 93 in Nashville. Everybody else held the 80s today, except for St. Louis there at 94. That means we are 8 degrees warmer, just straight temperatures versus yesterday at this time. Our low this morning was warmer than normal, and of course our high was pretty close to the average there. It was about 3 degrees warmer than average. So here we go now with the red days on here, and we will have many of those this week and going into the first week of July. You see our big rains there for the last 4 days, and that means our month now, we've gone from having basically a 2-inch rainfall deficit most of the month to this point to a 6-inch surplus. And for the year, we caught up. We're only about 1/3 of an inch off of where we should be. And that average temperature, surprisingly, we haven't had a lot of 90s, so it's still slightly cooler than normal. Look at this rainfall trend. We have been in the dry here since March, and actually November. March was kind of an anomaly there. We managed to get more than the normal rain, but 8 additional inches of rainfall in June, or it should say 6, but is really, really exceptional. I mean, we haven't had that happen in a long time. And on the heels of all that severe weather just a week ago. So really a notable week here in tri-state weather. Now, I'm showing this kind of tongue-in-cheek because the drought monitor was drawn up to be shown on Thursday before all the rain moved in. I'm almost certain that when we show this week on Thursday, there won't be any drought classifications for our area. I can't even imagine that with all the rain that we've had. That high-pressure dome is evident there. You don't see any weather here over the plains or the lower Ohio Valley. And that high is just going to kind of meander around, really, in the southeastern part of the country for most of the week. And so it just keeps pulling that humid Gulf air up, and there just isn't anything to break it. This cold front back to the west doesn't stand a chance of making it in here, and therefore no significant rain chances until maybe the end of the week. Starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're going to see a lot of green on the map, but that's just chances for rain, and they will most likely be widely scattered thunderstorms from Thursday on through the weekend. We have better chances actually on July the 4th. We'll hope that doesn't play out and ruin the fireworks for everybody. But not much rainfall showing up here in the week ahead, only about 0.4 of an inch on average. And again, we're looking primarily at isolated little doses of rain and cooling out there. Here's Friday noon on the European model. Again, some scattered thunderstorms possible. Same thing, well, that didn't advance, did it? I guess we did not get the full model run. Well, pay no attention to that one, and we'll just skip this too because they're all tied together. 74 degrees overnight. It'll be clear, humid, of course. Tomorrow up to 94, that heat index 105 to 110. Wall-to-wall alert days here all the way through. I'm putting them in through next weekend just because we don't really see a significant change in our weather conditions across the board. Warmer than normal, and then through the 12th of July, and slightly wetter than normal. Now that takes into account the rain we picked up yesterday. And Jonesy says, hey, that's a good looking cat back there. He's on a dashboard too. You see that down there? I don't know if that's a good idea to drive with a cat on your dashboard. All right, let me get our questions, comments, suggestions. We need a suggestion box here on the First Alert Weather Show at 9, don't we? Okay, here we go. Lenny Howard likes the warm weather. Well, we'll put you're in a, I'm sure, small minority. Dan Lees, evening all. Hey, Dan. And good evening to me and team. I'm team tonight. Byron was team yesterday. Arden will be team tomorrow. Actually, we're all three here tomorrow, so we had the full team in. We try to kind of share the love around here. And then Byron got stuck with severe weather yesterday during golf again. So it just is preordained. We're all going to have to interrupt golf. And we hate to do that too, but we have to do it. It's just, you know, somebody was giving me grief about breaking in last weekend for the tornado warnings. And I said, do you honestly think that I want to stand in a studio all day Sunday and talk to myself? No. Nobody wants to hear that either. But we had tornadoes, and Byron had a couple of tornado warnings and severe thunderstorms and the whole thing. Plus we had all that flooding. Jeff Miller, total rainfall, 4.65, had to wade in the mud to get some sweet corn. I'm sure it was worth it. I had some fresh sweet corn tonight. Really good. Dan Lees was going to ask about the drought situation. I think the drought's pretty much been canceled. Dan Lees wants to know if you can get the telescope out this week. Yeah, the moon's full tonight. You should get it out there. You know, one thing though, when it's this humid, sometimes you get that haze in there. It might be a little harder to image stuff like planets and so forth. Angie Wampler, 84 in Vincent's, now looking for a high cooling bill. Well, that's a positive spin. Boy, though, you know, if you don't have air conditioning, I mean, it actually would be life-threatening this week. You know, I always admired people that could go without, and I've tried to go without, And it gets to the point, you know, in your house, everything gets so damp, and you think you're going to get mold in that. I think the longest we ever made it, but then it wasn't like this, was maybe to July. And, you know, just open windows and big attic fan. I live in an old house, so we got an attic fan, you know, looks like a plane propeller. But, you know, if you're just drawing in more steamy air, that doesn't help. And probably you will see cooling centers open up this week for people that don't have air conditioning, you know, to go and get some relief, because it is that serious. Ricky Brown, 7.5 inches of Maceo. Oh, brother. You're probably waiting around in the mud too. Jared Verwain, every evening, just stay cool. Hope you're able to get the yard work done today. I was, and you know what? I recorded that video after I finished mowing for maximum dramatic effect. You know, I wanted to be sweaty, but boy, it didn't take long to get sweaty. I think I gassed up the mower and did the first pass. My yard's kind of in 3 sections, and by the time I got to the 3rd section, yeah, I was sucking air out there. And I was drinking water and stuff too. So, I mean, I was in the shade. I've got a lot of shade, so, you know, but still, it was pretty miserable out there. I kind of look at it, you know, a lot of times when I'm out mowing, people just stop in front of the house and they want to chat about the weather, which is fine. I'm sure I was a little whiffy. They came near me today, but, oh, whoops. Let me see here. What did I do to my, there we go. So yeah, one time somebody wanted a selfie, and I looked, well, didn't look self-worthy, but we took one. Who knows where that thing is, floating around the internet somewhere. Okay, I bumped my comments here, now they disappeared. Okay, Joyce May would rather have hot weather than cold. Okay. Well, you know, and I tend to agree with that line of thinking, because you can usually always cool off, but a lot of times you can't warm up. Cheyenne Hammonds, all this rain has my tomatoes going crazy. Well, good. And again, happy anniversary to you and Craig. See, I'm on either side of it. And Byron, by the time he would have gotten to the 9 o'clock show last night, I don't think he had, I mean, I left a note here on the desk. He probably didn't see it. I had it under the blotter over here. So my wife and I actually went out and celebrated our anniversary a little early. We're July the 8th, but 37 years. But we thought, you know what? We've got a night here. Why not? So we did. How long till fall? About a year, maybe 2. Well, let's think about that a minute. So the solstice was just last week, so 3 months. Yeah, I think that's about right. Around September the 21st or so. William Raleigh, 0.46, so 4.5 total. Okay, Carolyn Lovelace, watching from Hobstadt, sure was hot today. Yeah. And I'll tell you, Hobstadt, Southern Gibson County has been in the warpath this year, haven't they? I mean, we've had more wind and tornadoes and stuff up that way. And it started, I think, if I remember right, I had to look at the record here, but in December, didn't we have a tornado kind of just south of 68, went straight across, like between St. James Church, far south, and then Hobstadt, it just straight across. Knocked out 10 Barges Farm up there. I was going to do an out and about with them on their egg farm, and they're still rebuilding. Anyway, Jared Verwain, need somebody to mow my yard. Well, now, you know what? Now I'm going to make a statement here. I figure, well, first, it's good exercise. Secondly, you know, I like to mow it. I mean, I like to have everything just so. And yeah, but you know, on the other hand, you're helping some other person out, right? If that person's looking for work and you're able to pay them to mow the lawn, it kind of helps the economy. So I'm a little torn. I'm not cheap. I mean, I would pay to have that done, but I just feel like as long as I'm still mowing my lawn, I'm still relatively, I wouldn't say young, but ambulatory. You know what that's like? Well, maybe you don't. I don't know. And my neighbor, she's, well, I'm guessing in her 70s, and she finally has somebody that comes and mows it now. And they do a good job, you know, and every time they come, I think, you know, they could probably just come over here, throw them a couple dollars. Let's see, Amy Elsner, happy anniversary. Well, thank you. Lenny Howard, Nice weekend. Yeah, boy, I feel bad about Romp over there. Just absolutely washed out. And I think I was calling it Yellow Banks Park all week last week. Of course, it's Yellow Creek. I don't know why I did that. And nobody corrected me. That's bad. I should know that. Who else here? I assume everybody's going to have good tomatoes and watermelons and everything. Waylon Thomas Hurt says, wife Rachel says, tell you hello. We catch every 9 p.m. show. Well, good. We've got a real loyal turnout here. It's not quite a club, but it's kind of like that. You know, we're not doing this in a treehouse or anything, but we have a very loyal core audience. Every night when I scroll through here, I feel like I know everybody, even though I don't. I mean, I do, but I don't. You know what I mean? If I bumped into you, I probably, because I have to look at these little tiny pictures of everybody. Well, we should probably cover again, because, you know, I was trying to figure this out today, because I was out in the heat. Now, it wasn't that hot when I was out. It was like 80, I don't know, 82 or 3, and I think my weather station said the heat index was like 100 by the time I finished. But, you know, sometimes I was pulling vines and weeds and stuff, and if I get up, you know, you felt a little woozy. And I don't know if that's just because I feel woozy or what, but you know, we were in the beating sun out there, so yeah, you know, you feel faint or dizzy, or maybe you start to get a throbbing headache, then these are signs. Excessive sweating, and you will sweat excessively this week because there's so much moisture in the air. The sweat doesn't have anywhere to go. It barely can cool you, and instead of evaporating off, it just drips off, and so you're like wringing wet, you know, if you're wearing, I hope you're wearing clothes when you're mowing your grass. And then your skin, you got to monitor that. If you start to get pale or clammy, that's an issue. And of course, you know, if you're throwing up, that's never good. But both of these are, you know, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, kind of early warning signs. If you're starting to get either of these, you got to get into the cool, get some water in you, you know, maybe cool packs or cool towel or something. If your pulse starts to really go through the roof, then you're approaching heat stroke at that point. And of course, muscle cramping happens a lot too. You know, for heat exhaustion, you still have time to avert heat stroke if you take the usual actions there. You know, take a cool shower, cool compresses, drink cool liquids to cool your core, and call 911, of course, if you're, you know, on the other side of things, or if somebody's unconscious because of the heat. And I'll tell you something else to monitor too for hydration. The Lion's Den, Jeff Miller says. Yeah, that's right. That's kind of what this is. I can't brand it that way because it's the 14 something, and I don't think they would want 14 Lion's Den. But on a more serious note, dehydration. You know, because you're going to be drinking a lot of water this week, but you're also going to be losing it to sweat. And you monitor your urine, right? When you go, if it's darker in color than normal, that's a sign that you're not getting enough liquid. Not the first one in the morning, but, you know, through the day, if it's darker, you're not going, that's a real warning sign that you could be dehydrating. And I've always heard that if you pinch this skin here, you know, on the back of your hand, if it doesn't snap back right away, that's another sign of dehydration. So, you know, double up on the water or whatever you're drinking, non-alcohol and non-caffeine too. You know, you drink coffee or tea or whatever, and that causes you actually to lose your water more rapidly, diuretics. So don't do that either. Well, I mean, you can't, you know, just be careful. I think that's the main. We're so quick in the media just to dispense all these tips, but I mean, in practicality, you know, you still have to do things out there. So just, you know, but be more mindful that the heat is putting an extra toll on your body, and that the heat exhaustion, heat stroke, dehydration can sneak up on you. That's all I'm saying. All right. Kenneth Phillips, he summed it up better than I did. Here, I've taken 10 minutes. He said, got to listen to your body. I should put that on our tips. Paula Schaefer has a riding mower. Well, that'd be nice. I've never lived in a place where I could have one. I've either always lived on like a cliff with steep hills, or too small of a yard. It wouldn't make sense. Let's see. So good for you. Just get out early if you're going to do that kind of stuff. All right, that's all I have for you tonight. I think we're on time here on 14 News at 10. We've got a ball game on right now, I think. Or maybe that's on BTV. At any rate, we're planning to be on at 10 o'clock tonight, so I'll see you over there on TV and, of course, all next week. So you stay safe. Have a good night.